The morning begins not with silence, but with smell, a living, restless fragrance that rolls through the narrow streets like fog, heavy with memory. It is the 12th century, somewhere in the heart of Europe, and the town market has just awakened. The air is cool, but already thick with wood smoke, animal musk, damp straw, and the warm sweetness of bread rising inside stone ovens. You walk slowly, boots sinking into the soft mud of yesterday's rain, passing rows of crooked stalls made from timber darkened by age. Merchants call out through the haze, their voices half lost in the clatter of pots and hooves. Someone is roasting chestnuts over a brazier. The shells split open with tiny sighs, releasing waves of nutty perfume that drift between the stalls and mingle with the brine of salted fish laid out on wicker trays. Sparks jump from the fire, glowing like orange insects before they vanish into mist. A woman with cracked hands sprinkles honey over spirals of fried dough, a treat she calls angel loops, though the shape is more like twisted ropes dipped in sweetness. The scent cuts through the chill, warm and golden. You draw closer, watching her lift each piece with an iron fork. The oil hisses and spits, a dangerous comfort. Hunger is not a hobby here. It is a companion. In this century, food is labor turned briefly into pleasure, a pause between hours of toil. Children run barefoot through puddles, chasing one another, with small bits of bread clutched in their fists. A baker down the lane bangs his paddle against a stone oven, turning out flat loaves blistered at the edges, each one smelling faintly of smoke and ash. Behind him, another stall sells what he calls sailor's chips, thin scraps of dough fried in oil that has seen better days, sprinkled with salt and crushed herbs. They are cheap, crisp, and endlessly satisfying. Nobody calls it junk food, but that is what it is. Fast, greasy joy. A line forms before the cart of a sugar seller. He is a boy no older than 15, stirring almonds in a pot of molten syrup. The mixture pops and sizzles, sending up clouds of sweet steam. When he pours it onto a slab of stone, it hardens into golden shards that catch the weak sunlight like jewels. Sugar is rare, almost mythical. It has traveled thousands of miles from cane fields, across seas most of these people will never see. Yet here, it becomes a few mouthfuls of luxury for those who can spare a coin. You take a piece. It clings to your teeth, smoky and crystalline, a miracle you can taste. The boy smiles, proud to sell fragments of wonder. Nearby, a butcher turns scraps of pork in a pan, frying them with onions until the smell becomes irresistible. His customers are workers, haulers, masons, men who build walls and dig ditches. The meat spits grease onto their hands, and they grin as they eat. To them, this is not indulgence but survival. A monk passes by, robe hitched high to avoid the mud. He frowns at the noise, but cannot hide his interest. Even the devout crave what the world forbids. You move with the crowd, brushing past barrels of cider and ale. The froth catches the light like liquid bronze. Somewhere, someone has spilled vinegar, its sting cutting sharply through the sweetness in the air. Bundles of herbs hang from wooden beams. Thyme, sage, marjoram, their purpose both culinary and medicinal. They hide the scent of meat that has lingered too long in the sun. This is the secret of medieval cooking: disguise. Salt, smoke, spice, and heat are not luxuries, but shields. The cooks here know 100 ways to make the old taste new. A pot boils near your feet, filled with dumplings, stuffed with mashed beans and garlic. The vendor calls them poor man's pies, though the smell alone could rival a feast. You pay a copper and bite in. The dough is thick, the center soft and earthy. The flavor carries a quiet satisfaction, simple, heavy, real. Behind you, a musician plays a rough wooden flute. It wobbles, imperfect but human, and for a heartbeat, the market feels almost timeless. The melody winds between the stalls, mingling with the rhythm of hammers and the hiss of frying oil. People pause to listen. Even here, among mud and barter, there is space for small beauty. A woman beside you laughs as her child steals a plum. The fruit splits, spilling dark juice down his chin. He licks it, clean eyes, bright. You realize that medieval junk food is not born from excess, but from scarcity. It is the taste of rebellion against hunger, a reminder that even in a hard world, sweetness still exists. Somewhere, a church bell tolls, deep and patient, calling people toward prayer. The sound rolls through the square like distant thunder. Vendors glance up briefly, then return to their work. Business waits for no sermon. A gust of wind carries the mingled smells of dough, fire, and life itself. You stand there a while, watching smoke rise like a gray ribbon into the pale sky. The sun climbs higher, turning the wet ground into mirrors that catch flashes of color: red apples, blue cloth, copper pots. The noise grows until it becomes a kind of heartbeat. And within it all, the market hums with one simple truth: food is memory. And even the poorest soul craves a taste worth remembering. The market continues to hum, a living organism of smell, color, and motion. And as the morning deepens, your attention drifts naturally toward the sweeter corners of this medieval world, where sugar, honey, and fried delights call to the weary, the curious, and the hungry alike. You follow the scent of warm bread tinged with honey, leading you past baskets of sugared almonds stacked in precarious towers, their surfaces glinting like tiny jewels in the pale sun. And notice the children tugging at their parents' hands, eyes wide with longing for a stick of crystallized ginger or a morsel of candied orange peel that seems almost magical in its rarity. For spices are treasures carried from distant lands, and sugar is a gift of fortune, something to be savored carefully, and even in this world of scarcity. These little indulgences are reminders of joy amidst toil. You wander closer to a stall where a man stirs a bubbling cauldron of dark, sticky molasses, adding small pieces of dough that hiss and puff as they fry, the air filling with a warm, sweet, almost smoky aroma that makes your stomach tighten in anticipation. And you see women with baskets of fried pastries dusted with crushed nuts, powdered sugar, and the faintest sprinkle of cinnamon, each piece irregular in shape, golden at the edges, soft in the center. The kind of treat that children grab with sticky fingers before racing off to hide behind a stall or a wagon to devour it in secret, their laughter mingling with the sizzling and snapping of oil in the pans. A few steps further, a baker's apprentice pours thick ribbons of honey over, cutting it into rough squares for the common folk. And you notice the way the sunlight catches each golden drop, turning it into a tiny molten jewel. The smell is hypnotic, rich with toasted flour, smoke, and the faint tempts of fermented grains from the ale nearby. And as you move through the crowd, the air seems almost alive with the energy of desire and indulgence, each merchant calling out their wares, the words overlapping into a rhythm that pulses with the heartbeat of the town. A young boy carries a tray of almond-filled cookies, tripping slightly on the uneven stones, and the mother beside him lets out a soft laugh, catching him by the arm, while you notice a group of apprentices sharing a single loaf of sweetened bread, tearing off chunks with reverent care, savoring each bite. Nearby, a woman drops a spoonful of caramelized sugar onto a small wooden plate, letting it cool until it hardens into brittle shards, which she sells to anyone who can spare a coin. And the smell of burnt sugar mixes with the faint tang of smoked meat and roasted nuts, creating a heady, almost intoxicating perfume that wraps around you, pulling you forward. Somewhere off to the side, a merchant rolls thin sheets of dough filled with chopped dried fruits and spices, baking them in shallow pans over open flames, their sweet aroma twisting upward into the morning air, mingling with the faint metallic temps of the iron pots and the earthy scent of the wet streets. And you watch as a woman hands one to a tired traveler who bites carefully, nodding in quiet approval, savoring the contrast of crispy crust and soft, fragrant filling, feeling momentarily transported beyond the hard hours of labor that dominate his days. As you move onward, the rhythm of frying, boiling, and roasting becomes almost hypnotic, a symphony of textures, smells, and colors that wrap the market in a blanket of warmth. And you notice how even the simplest ingredients, flour, honey, nuts, eggs, oil, when treated with care and patience, can become a source of magic, transforming the mundane into delight, the ordinary into memory. The sweetness here is not just flavor, but escape, a small rebellion against the monotony of medieval life, a fleeting pleasure carried on the breath of smoke and dust, a reminder that even in hardship there is room for indulgence. You pause near a stand where candied fruits are threaded onto skewers, their colors vivid against the muted palette of timber and stone, red and orange, green and yellow, almost glowing in the morning light. And children beg, whispering deals with coins they have scavenged, while parents negotiate patiently, laughing softly. A woman nearby tosses donut-like fritters into bubbling oil, flipping them carefully, and the smell of warm oil, yeast, and sugar combines into a scent so comforting you can almost feel the heat against your skin. A tiny sun trapped in each golden ring. Further down, you glimpse pastries stuffed with dried cherries and figs, their crusts browned perfectly, powdered sugar settling like frost, while behind the stall, a cat pads silently, waiting for a careless crumb, and for a moment, the scene feels eternal, timeless, as though nothing will change in this market, in this town, in this world of small pleasures and sweet indulgences. Each smell, each taste, each golden glint of honeyed bread tells a story of lives shaped by scarcity and ingenuity, of people finding joy wherever they can, turning necessity into wonder, survival into delight. And as you walk onward, the market unfolds like a living painting, rich with color, texture, sound, and scent. And you realize that medieval junk food, though simple and humble, is a mirror of the human desire for sweetness, comfort, and fleeting happiness. A reminder that even in the most difficult of times, the pursuit of small pleasures has always been part of life's quiet poetry, a golden thread running through centuries of toil, laughter, and the smell of warm bread and honeyed pastries. And you inhale deeply, letting the scents mingle with the memory of every frying pan, every sugar shard, every child's sticky hand and triumphant smile, until the market feels not just seen or smelled, but experienced, a living, breathing tapestry of desire, indulgence, and the timeless craving for something sweet. As the morning wears on, the market begins to pulse with an even deeper rhythm, a slow, living heartbeat that seems to echo in the cobbled streets. And you find yourself drawn toward the stalls that promise something more mysterious than the obvious sweetness of honey and fried dough, where the smell of exotic spices mingles with the earthy aroma of roasting meats, dried fruits, and smoke from countless hearths, creating a complex perfume that envelops the crowd and lures you forward with the quiet insistence of a memory long buried yet immediately recognizable. You pass a stall where the merchant carefully measures cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, sprinkling them over small cakes baked the day before, their crusts darkened slightly by the oven, and the scent rises in thin, curling ribbons that make the air itself seem warm and golden, as if sunlight has been captured and poured into the pastry itself. And you notice the children who press their small faces close to the trays, eyes wide, hands twitching toward the spiced treats as though they were talismans of happiness. Each bite a secret victory against the long hours of labor and study, a small rebellion against the discipline imposed by parents and priests alike. Nearby, a man tends a cauldron of molten sugar, adding pistachios and raisins as it bubbles violently, the mixture dark and glossy, rising in sticky clouds of steam that carry the faint scent of burnt caramel and roasted nuts. And as he pours the mixture into shallow wooden trays to cool, the caramel snaps faintly like tiny fireworks, sending up a whispering aroma that drifts across the square, making noses twitch and mouths water. You pass a cart with skewers of candied fruits, slices of citrus and apple coated in sugar so thick it glints in the sun, and the colors seem almost unnatural, a striking contrast to the muted browns and grays of timber stalls and stone streets. And you see a mother buying one for her child, who bites carefully, savoring the sugar as if it were rare gold, while the merchant smiles knowingly, aware that these small delights carry stories, history, and imagination within their sticky, fragrant layers. The market hums with life as the morning light shifts, falling through gaps between buildings, illuminating clouds of flour that rise from the bread stalls in soft, ghostly columns. And you notice the way a stray cat weaves silently between shoppers, sniffing the edges of buns, fritters, and pies, perfectly attuned to the rhythm of the market, patient and graceful, waiting for the smallest offering. You pass a man stirring a vat of spiced wine, the aroma rich with cinnamon, cloves, and faint citrus zest, the warmth of the beverage rising like a gentle fog and making the air around it shimmer slightly, attracting both weary travelers and local children with the promise of sweetness and heat. a sensory lure as intoxicating as the music that drifts faintly from a nearby lute player whose uneven melody blends with the sizzle of frying oil and the murmur of conversation. Further along, you see trays of small honey cakes topped with crushed nuts and raisins, each one shaped differently, as if the baker allowed the irregularity of life to shape the final product. And the sweetness and texture are enhanced by a whisper of clove and ginger, a spice that travels oceans to arrive here. Tiny fragments of distant lands now pressed into simple human enjoyment. A woman drops a caramelized fig onto a wooden board, cutting it carefully into bite-sized pieces and handing them to children who squeal softly in delight, their sticky fingers leaving tiny imprints that she does not bother to wipe away. For in this place, indulgence is temporary, but joy is permanent. Somewhere else, the air is thick with smoke as a baker fries small dough balls in oil, rolling them in sugar afterward. The sound of sizzling filling your ears, mingling with laughter, chatter, and the low murmur of barter. The combination of textures, crisp, soft, sticky, spiced, sweet, creates a world apart from the harshness of labor and scarcity, a fleeting sanctuary where the human need for pleasure is honored, if only for a moment. You notice apprentices stealing tiny scraps of sweet bread behind barrels, gnawing in secret, faces bright with triumph. And the adults, too, sometimes nibble pieces of candied ginger or fried dough while pretending to inspect their wares, their small acts of rebellion unnoticed by anyone but the market itself. The sun climbs higher, casting shifting shadows across trays, barrels, and baskets, making the sugar glisten, the oil shimmer, and the pastries appear almost alive. And the mixture of aromas, honey, fried dough, caramel, nuts, smoke, spices, seems to create a melody of memory that touches everyone who breathes it. A song without sound, felt rather than heard. As you move slowly through the crowd, the colors, smells, and sounds interweave into a tapestry that seems larger than the town itself. A living chronicle of indulgence, invention, and survival. And you understand that medieval junk food was more than mere calories or treat. It was imagination made edible, small happiness carved from scarcity, and a ritual repeated countless times by countless people over the centuries. The air is warm now, heavy with sweetness and smoke. The sun high and bright, and as you pause to watch a baker flip golden fritters, smell the almonds roasting nearby, and see children devouring their stolen treasures, you feel a quiet, timeless satisfaction. The market itself seems to pulse with this rhythm, a living entity of heat, scent, and sound, immortalized in fleeting moments of indulgence. And you take a deep breath, letting the smells fill your lungs, the warmth brush your skin, and the scene sink into memory as though it will last forever. A perfect record of the human desire for small sweetness, comfort, and joy in a world that rarely offers it freely. In the cool, shadowed corners of the medieval town, away from the bustling market, a different kind of food preparation takes place, quiet, deliberate, and just as essential as the fried dough and candied almonds that fill the streets. For in this world, the preservation of flavor and sustenance is both art and necessity. And you move slowly through narrow alleys where the scent of smoke and brine hangs thick in the air. following the aroma of curing meat, fermenting vegetables, and the sharp tang of vinegar. Each smell layered like the notes of a complex song. Here, barrels of salted pork and beef line the walls, their surfaces dark and damp, the edges crusted with fine salt crystals, and you watch the workers pack them carefully, layering meat with herbs like thyme and sage, pressing each slab until it fits snugly. The smell of smoke from nearby fires seeping into every crevice, leaving a flavor that will last through months of cold winters and scarce harvests. And you realize that what seems simple to the eye, a chunk of salted meat or a jar of pickled vegetables, is actually the product of careful calculation, centuries of experimentation, and the patient hands of those who understand how to coax the land, the animal, and the air into long-lasting sustenance. Beyond the meats, you see vats of vegetables submerged in brine, cabbage heads, cucumbers, carrots, and beets slowly softening and fermenting, the sour smell sharp yet enticing, the air thick with the promise of flavor that will endure the dark months when fresh produce is a distant memory, and small children peek curiously at the barrels, fascinated by the strange bubbling noises and the colors that deepen as the vegetables rest, a process unseen yet essential to survival. Near the edge of the alley, a woman stirs a simmering pot of honeyed fruits, figs, plums, and apples, their juices thickening over low flames, infused with cinnamon, cloves, and the faintest touch of nutmeg, the aroma curling upward like smoke into the cold morning air. And she carefully pours the mixture into jars, sealing them tightly with wax to preserve not only sweetness but memory. For these treats are not for immediate consumption, but for saving, a way to carry the essence of summer into winter, to capture sunlight in sugar and fruit, and taste it months later when the days are gray and cold. You pause to watch a man weaving straw over a barrel of salted fish, the pungent odor sharp and biting, yet strangely compelling, carrying hints of the sea across the narrow street. And you realize that each preserved item, whether sweet, sour, or smoky, tells a story of ingenuity and resourcefulness, a way humans have always stretched the fleeting hours of plenty into the long nights of want. And there is a beauty in it, quiet and uncelebrated, that exists only for those who pause long enough to notice. The smells blend together into a complex tapestry: smoke, honey, vinegar, herbs, and fermenting fruits, each element distinct, yet forming a perfect whole, a silent symphony of medieval ingenuity. And as you inhale deeply, you understand that this world of preserved flavor is not just about survival, but about pleasure, about crafting tastes in a way that transcends necessity, so that when winter comes and the market is quiet, there will still be sweetness, warmth, and memory to draw from. You walk further into the alleys and see barrels of wine aging in shadowed corners, each one layered with herbs or fruits, the aroma rich and heady, mixing with the sense of bread, roasting meat, and smoke from nearby fires, creating an intoxicating perfume that seems to hang in the narrow streets as a quiet witness to the rhythm of life. Apprentices move carefully, checking seals, stirring jars, tasting carefully with wooden spoons, their movements precise and deliberate, almost ritualistic. And you watch a young boy dip a piece of bread into a pot of preserved figs, lifting it slowly to taste the sweetness, sticky and warm. A fleeting indulgence that connects him to centuries of labor, knowledge, and tradition. As if each bite carries with it the hands, noses, and palates of countless people who have come before. In the corners, small fires crackle under cauldrons of herbs and mushrooms, their aromas subtle but grounding, blending with the pervasive sense of salt, honey, and smoke, forming a layered symphony of flavor and survival. And as you stand in the midst of it, the world slows to the rhythm of human ingenuity, of the careful balancing of scarcity and delight, of the dark art of preserving flavor in a world that allows only brief moments of abundance. Each preserved morsel, a tiny rebellion against hunger, a captured memory, a whisper of sweetness in a life shaped by toil. And you take a deep breath, letting the scents fill your senses completely, the smoke, spice, and sweetness merging into one immersive experience. A living memory of the medieval palate, the medieval mind, and the enduring desire to transform necessity into small pleasures, survival into art, and time into taste. As the market quiets slightly in the late morning, your senses turn once more toward sweetness, toward the hidden pleasures that lie beyond the obvious bread, fritters, and fried dough. For in the corners of the town and behind closed wooden shutters, there exists an array of treats designed to delight, to surprise, and to bring joy in a world that is often hard and unrelenting. And you follow a narrow path along the edge of the main street where the scent of caramel, honey, and roasted nuts begins to weave itself into the air like a gentle spell, drawing you toward a small shop front whose door is slightly ajar, revealing the warm glow of sunlight on rough-hewn shelves lined with jars, wooden bowls, and small trays of glistening confections. Inside, the room smells of honey thickened into amber-colored syrup, sugar that has been crushed and fried with almonds, raisins, and tiny bits of candied peel. The air heavy with the warmth of freshly baked pastries, and you watch as the baker carefully rolls dough into irregular shapes, brushing it with melted honey and sprinkling crushed nuts and a pinch of exotic spices that have traveled hundreds, even thousands of miles to reach these streets. The aroma so compelling that you can almost taste it before it even touches your lips. A tray of small tarts, each no bigger than a hand, rests on a wooden table, their crusts browned to perfection, and inside lies a mixture of figs, plums, and apples, sweetened only slightly, but flavored with cinnamon, cloves, and the faintest hint of ginger, creating a layered taste that is at once comforting and surprising. And children press their noses against the glass, whispering to each other in delight and anticipation, while adults pause just long enough to inhale the fragrance before continuing their errands, caught in the delicate spell of sugar and spice. In the corner, a cauldron bubbles gently, filled with caramelized fruits and nuts, and the baker stirs slowly with a thick wooden spoon, the mixture hissing softly as it touches the hot metal, sending up wisps of golden steam that curl upward toward the ceiling, filling the room with a heady, warm aroma that wraps around your senses and seems to slow time itself. Each breath a mixture of sweetness, warmth, and the faint smokiness of roasted almonds. Beyond the cauldron, small jars of candied ginger, crystallized lemon, and honey-coated figs are displayed on shelves, each one catching the sunlight that filters through the small window in sharp, golden beams, the light turning each morsel into a jewel. A temptation so vivid that even the most disciplined shopper finds themselves pausing, considering, and ultimately giving in to the quiet, irresistible allure of indulgence. A young boy reaches for a small piece of honeycomb, breaking it carefully and letting the sticky sweetness coat his fingers before popping it into his mouth with a look of blissful triumph. And you notice how these small acts of indulgence, repeated countless times across the town, form an invisible network of joy and memory, as if the act of tasting, of savoring, is itself a ritual that connects every generation, every family, and every solitary wanderer who passes through these streets. The smells mingle with the faint tang of roasting nuts from a nearby stall, the soft fragrance of baked apples, and the sweet, almost smoky aroma of fried pastries, blending into a rich, immersive perfume that seems to float above the cobblestones, touching every passerby, slowing their steps, and inviting them to linger, to taste, to remember. Apprentices carry trays of sugared nuts and small pastries out to the street, offering morsels to anyone who will try. The combination of sweetness, spice, and warmth creating fleeting moments of connection between strangers, their hands brushing briefly as coins are exchanged, their smiles, small but sincere, echoing the simple joy of the baked treats themselves. You notice a woman carefully placing tiny fritters filled with dried fruit onto a cooling tray, brushing each with honey while humming softly to herself, the sound blending with the sizzle from the frying pan and the distant chatter of the market, forming a quiet symphony of ordinary life elevated by sweetness, care, and attention. In another corner, skewers of candied fruits glint like precious stones, their colors bright against the muted timber and stone of the shop, and children's laughter mingles with the soft crunch as someone bites into the sticky, sweet coating, the flavor lingering on the tongue, warm and comforting, a fleeting but unforgettable memory. The warmth of the shop, the rich aromas, the golden sunlight, and the delicate, layered sweetness of these hidden treats create a world within a world, a space where indulgence is not a crime but a necessity, a reminder that even in hardship, humans have always found small pleasures, small luxuries, and that these sweets, humble as they may seem, are threads of joy woven into the tapestry of medieval life, bridging generations, markets, homes, and hearts with their warmth, scent, and flavor. A living testament to creativity, patience, and the timeless human desire to transform scarcity into delight, survival into sweetness, and ordinary days into something remembered forever. The air is richer now, filled with the scent of roasting meats, spiced breads, and honeyed pastries as you move toward the center of the town where preparations for a festival are underway. A gathering of merchants, villagers, and wandering travelers, all drawn by the promise of indulgence and merriment, and the scene is alive with the rhythm of human delight. From the clatter of wooden carts bringing in barrels of ale to the faint tinkle of bells as children run barefoot across sun-warmed cobblestones, their laughter mingling with the sizzling of frying dough and the rich, warm aroma of roasted nuts and caramelized fruits. In the open square, long wooden tables are being set with rough-hewn plates and bowls, each already carrying small, fragrant morsels, honey cakes dusted with powdered sugar, figs stuffed with nuts, flatbreads smeared with spiced preserves, and skewers of candied citrus that gleam like jewels in the morning sun. The colors vivid against the muted browns and grays of timber and stone. And you notice the careful way each item has been arranged, almost ceremoniously, by women and apprentices who move with the rhythm of the day, brushing honey over pastries, sprinkling crushed almonds and raisins, adjusting skewers so that every morsel catches the light and draws the eye. The air heavy with scents, so intoxicating that you can almost taste them before your lips meet the food. The festival itself hums with anticipation, merchants calling out their wares, minstrels tuning lutes and flutes, the smell of roasting meats and frying pastries rising in gentle clouds, and children running between stalls, pockets already filled with small sweets they have bargained for or stolen in gleeful triumph, while adults watch with indulgent smiles, tasting a piece of spiced bread here, a candied fig there, the simple pleasure of sugar and honey connecting them across generations and social boundaries, reminding everyone that in times of celebration, even the poorest can share in sweetness, warmth, and community. You notice a group of bakers near a large, open hearth kneading dough for festival buns, rolling it with practiced hands, each movement a quiet ritual, the flour dusting the air and catching the sunlight in tiny golden clouds, while the smell of baked bread mingles with the caramelized sugar from trays of small fritters. And the combination is hypnotic, a symphony of aromas that seems to slow time, inviting everyone present to pause, inhale, and appreciate the abundance, however fleeting, that the festival provides. Somewhere behind the tables, a woman pours thick ribbons of honey over pastries stuffed with figs, dates, and almonds, letting it drip slowly onto the boards below, the golden liquid catching the light and glinting like molten sunlight, while an apprentice carefully stirs a cauldron of spiced wine, its aroma rich with cinnamon, cloves, and faint hints of orange, sending warmth and sweetness curling into the air, enveloping those nearby in a soft, comforting embrace. And you notice that even the smallest details, the sprinkle of sugar, the tilt of a tray, the precise alignment of skewers, carry a purpose, a quiet artistry designed to elevate ordinary ingredients into moments of delight, memory, and indulgence. Across the square, musicians play, their tunes imperfect yet enchanting, providing a soundtrack to the smells, colors, and textures. And as people move between stalls, tasting pastries, candied fruits, roasted nuts, and spiced breads, the festival transforms from a simple gathering into a living, breathing tapestry of medieval life, where survival and joy coexist, where necessity is briefly suspended in favor of celebration, and where sweetness, both literal and metaphorical, reigns for the few hours it is allowed. Children dart between tables, their sticky fingers glistening with honey, their eyes wide as they trade small treats, sometimes hiding pieces behind their backs to savor later, while adults exchange bites and stories, laughter mingling with the clatter of dishes, the hiss of frying pans, and the low hum of conversation, creating a sensory experience that touches everyone present, a communal indulgence in the simplest, most human of pleasures. You notice a baker adding the final touch to a tray of honeyed fritters, carefully sprinkling crushed almonds and a faint dusting of powdered sugar, the aroma curling upward, mingling with the tang of roasting nuts, the sweetness of honey, and the faint smoke from open flames, forming a perfect, ephemeral perfume that seems to hang over the entire square, softening shadows, warming hearts, and slowing time just enough for everyone to savor these fleeting moments of joy. In quiet corners, small vendors sell candied fruits on sticks, their colors brilliant and their sweetness almost overwhelming, while nearby a group of villagers dips bread into pots of warm honey, savoring each bite as if it were the most precious luxury. The simple act of tasting sweetness becoming a ritual, a shared memory, a tiny rebellion against the hardships of life. And you realize that these feasts, these festival indulgences, are more than just sustenance. They are storytelling, memory, art, and love baked into tangible, edible form, carrying with them the history of trade, travel, and human creativity, as each ingredient, honey from distant hills, sugar from faraway lands, spices carried by merchants across ocean tells a story of connection, survival, and delight, binding everyone present into a single, living moment of sensory indulgence, warmth, and shared humanity. The streets grow warmer as the sun climbs higher, and your attention is drawn once more to the cool, inviting aromas wafting from barrels, casks, and cauldrons that line the alleys and taverns. For in the medieval world, beverages are more than simple refreshment. They are survival, pleasure, ritual, and even medicine, a delicate art that balances flavor, intoxication, and necessity. And you follow the faint, heady scent of malt, honey, herbs, and fermenting fruits into the heart of the town, where the tavern's wooden doors creak open, releasing a rich, enveloping perfume that blends the smoky warmth of hearth fires with the tang of ale, mead, and cider, and the faint sweetness of mulled wine carried in large clay jugs. Inside, the tavern is a cathedral of scents, sounds, and movement, the floor uneven and sticky from spilled drinks, straws scattered to absorb the moisture, and the air vibrating with the low murmur of conversation. Occasional laughter and the clink of wooden mugs against worn tables, as apprentices, bartenders, and travelers alike move with purpose, filling jugs, wiping spills, and serving patrons who drink not only to quench thirst, but to mark the rhythm of their long days, their lives measured in gulps of ale, sips of sweetened wine, or tiny tastes of spiced mead that carries the warmth of distant lands, distilled into something both ordinary and extraordinary. You notice the careful artistry in preparation, barrels tapped with precision, the thick foam rising and falling with a slow, almost hypnotic rhythm, the honey stirred gently into dark mead until it dissolves into a golden swirl, releasing the faint aroma of flowers, herbs, and heat, a perfume that wraps around you, warming the skin and tantalizing the senses. Near the hearth, a cauldron simmers with mulled wine, the liquid deep crimson, heavy with cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, and citrus peel, sending waves of fragrant steam curling upward, filling every corner of the tavern and mingling with the smoky tang of roasting meats and the earthy scent of damp timber, while patrons lift their mugs, inhaling deeply before tasting, savoring the delicate balance between sweetness, spice, and warmth. And you notice how even the simplest sip carries layers of culture, geography, and human ingenuity, a story captured in liquid form. Apprentices move carefully, pouring ale into small wooden mugs, watching the foam rise and settle, adjusting each pour to perfection, while travelers sip cautiously, savoring the bitter tang of hops, the faint sweetness of malt, and the soft warmth of residual alcohol, their faces lighting with surprise as flavors reveal themselves in unexpected combinations, sometimes enhanced by a touch of honey, a sprinkle of ground ginger, or a twist of citrus brought from distant markets. Outside, barrels of cider are stacked along the alley, their wooden staves darkened by years of use, the faint scent of fermented apples rising in soft clouds, mingling with the smoke from hearths and the tang of spiced sausages cooking nearby, forming a complex, immersive aroma that seems almost tangible, wrapping the market, the tavern, and every passerby in a sensory story that cannot be read but only experienced. You watch as a tavern keeper carries a tray of small cups filled with a honey and herb infusion, handing them to travelers who sip slowly, eyes closed, letting the warmth and sweetness seep into their bodies, a quiet ritual of comfort, connection, and indulgence. And you realize that in a world of scarcity, the preparation, sharing, and tasting of drinks is a central act of humanity, binding together strangers and neighbors, peasants and nobles, in fleeting but meaningful communion. The air is thick with aroma as barrels of ale are tapped, the foamy liquid spilling slightly as it hits the wooden mugs, filling the room with a soft hiss, and patrons lean in to taste, comparing flavors, commenting on the strength of hops or the smoothness of honeyed mead, the conversation drifting between advice, gossip, and delight, while apprentices take notes or adjust proportions, learning the subtleties of fermentation, sweetening, and spicing, their hands moving with quiet precision, carrying centuries of knowledge in each careful gesture. Behind them, a small fire roasts almonds in a pan, their scent blending with the sweet, fermented notes of drinks, creating an intoxicating combination of smells, tastes, and textures, while sunlight filters through the windows, catching the foam on mugs, the glint of polished clay jugs, and the occasional flash of copper brewing utensils, illuminating a space that is at once humble and rich, ordinary and extraordinary, chaotic and ordered, warm and inviting, a living testimony to the human pursuit of flavor, comfort, and joy. As you stand in the center, breathing in the mingled scents of malt, honey, spices, and smoke, observing patrons sipping, laughing, trading stories, and apprentices moving with quiet devotion, you understand that medieval drinks are more than sustenance. They are culture, survival, ritual, indulgence, and delight captured in liquid form, a complex symphony of ingredients, hands, and traditions, distilled into moments of sensory pleasure that echo across centuries and remind every passerby that even in the harshest world, humans have always sought sweetness, warmth, and connection, one careful sip at a time. Beyond the busy tavern, in quieter corners of the town where the air is thick with smoke and the faint scent of baking bread, you find yourself drawn toward tables and stalls that offer the more unusual, even mysterious beverages of medieval life. Liquids that combine necessity, experimentation, and indulgence in ways that modern palates might find bewildering, yet strangely compelling. For in this world, every drink carries purpose, whether for health, pleasure, ritual, or simple survival. And as you wander closer, the scent of spiced mead, fermented fruits, honeyed syrups, and herbal infusions rises to meet you, soft, warm, and heady, weaving around the smoke from hearths and the earthy aroma of cobblestones heated by the sun, forming a tapestry of smells that is both dizzying and comforting. Small clay pots simmer gently over fires, filled with mixtures of honey, water, herbs, and fruits. The ingredients carefully measured and stirred by apprentices who have learned from masters, before them. Each stir a quiet ritual, each measurement an act of patience and devotion. The aroma of cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, and fennel rising in thin clouds that drift through the streets, catching the attention of passersby and drawing them closer, their curiosity piqued by both scent and color. For these drinks range from dark amber to golden yellow, the surface glinting as sunlight strikes, the liquid almost alive, promising warmth, sweetness, and sometimes subtle intoxication. Nearby, a man stirs a cauldron of mulled cider, thick with honey and slices of dried fruits, the surface bubbling slightly as he adds a pinch of ground ginger, the smell curling upward like smoke into the morning air, mixing with the faint temps of fermented grains and the sweetness of caramelizing sugar from nearby stalls, creating a perfume that is almost intoxicating in its complexity, both earthy and heady, simple yet sophisticated. A liquid embodiment of the medieval balance between scarcity and indulgence. You watch as children and adults alike approach the stalls, some receiving small cups of warm honeyed water, others tipping coins for thick, spiced drinks containing apples, plums, and figs, their faces lighting with surprise at the layered flavors, the faint warmth of alcohol in the stronger meads, the sweetness of honey softening the sharpness of fermented fruit, the subtle bite of spices lingering on the tongue long after the sip is finished. And you realize that even in this constrained world, humans have mastered the art of delight, turning necessity into indulgence and labor into pleasure. Each drink a small miracle of taste, history, and geography. A woman ladles golden mead into wooden mugs, the liquid thick and viscous, infused with herbs like rosemary, sage, and thyme, while a boy nearby stirs a pot of fruit syrup thickened with honey, letting it bubble slowly until the aroma fills the alley with warmth, sweetness, and spice, mingling with the smoky tang of roasted almonds and the faint scent of fresh bread from nearby ovens, forming a sensory harmony that transcends the boundaries of ordinary life. You notice a small group sampling a potent concoction made from fermented berries, honey, and a touch of aniseed, their expressions softening with the warmth of the drink, their eyes closing as the layers of taste unfold, and the ritualistic sipping, the quiet appreciation, the subtle exchanges of nods and murmured approval create a momentary community bound by shared pleasure, fleeting yet unforgettable. Beyond them, apprentices move carefully, topping off mugs, stirring cauldrons, and arranging trays of small glasses filled with honeyed water. spiced cider, and weak meads. The preparation itself, a delicate dance, blending knowledge, instinct, and intuition, while merchants, travelers, and townsfolk move around them, noses lifted to inhale the complex fragrances, hands reaching for cups, mouths tasting, eyes lighting with delight, a living choreography of desire, indulgence, and survival. As the sun climbs, the alley fills with steam, the mingling smells of honey, spices, roasted nuts, and fermented fruits thickening into a rich, almost tangible mist, and you pause to breathe it all in, understanding that these strange, sweet elixirs are more than simple beverages. They are culture, history, survival, and pleasure captured in liquid form, a testament to human ingenuity and the universal desire to transform the mundane into joy, necessity into art, and fleeting ingredients into memory, flavor, and warmth, a quiet celebration of life in a world often harsh and unforgiving, where even the smallest sip can carry comfort, delight, and connection across time, distance, and circumstance. As the afternoon sun dips lower, casting long, warm shafts of light across timbered streets, the medieval taverns hum with life, a mingling of voices, laughter, and the soft clatter of wooden mugs on worn tables. And you step into one of these bustling establishments to witness the living theater of human indulgence. For here, drinks are more than sustenance, they are storytelling, ritual, and escape, a place where peasants, merchants, and travelers alike gather to share news, gossip, and fleeting moments of joy, while apprentices, bartenders, and brewers orchestrate a delicate symphony of preparation, pouring frothy ale, ladling spiced mead, and topping cups of mulled wine with care. The aroma of malt, honey, cloves, cinnamon, and citrus mingling with smoke from the hearth and the faint sweetness of roasting nuts, creating a rich, layered scent that wraps around every person present, allowing each sip to become a meditation, a memory, and a quiet celebration. In one corner, a group of villagers leans over a long wooden table, mugs raised, sharing stories of hunts and the occasional mischief, their laughter rising above the hum of conversation, while a young apprentice carefully fills a tray with small cups of honeyed water, moving slowly so as not to spill, each cup a miniature work of art, the liquid glinting like liquid gold in the soft sunlight streaming through the windows, its aroma of warm honey, faint herbs, and a touch of spice curling upward to mingle with the other fragrances in the room, drawing the attention of passers-by and inviting them to taste, to linger, and to participate in the quiet, sensory ritual of indulgence. Behind the bar, a master brewer inspects a large barrel of fermented apples, tapping it with a wooden mallet to check for quality and sound, the deep, resonant thump echoing through the tavern, while apprentices stir cauldrons of mead and mulled wine, tasting, adjusting, and learning the nuances of balance between sweetness, spice, and warmth, each movement deliberate, each gesture teaching, preserving, and passing down knowledge that will sustain generations. You notice a woman ladling thick, spiced syrup into small mugs for children, the amber liquid glistening as it falls, carrying the warmth of honey, the bite of ginger, the richness of cloves, and the subtle, lingering notes of cinnamon. And as she sets each cup carefully on the tray, A hush briefly settles over the nearby patrons, a quiet acknowledgement of the care, ritual, and human connection embedded in these small acts. For even the simplest drink, here is a story, a memory, and a comfort, bridging age, class, and circumstance in a fleeting but meaningful moment. Near the hearth, a cauldron of spiced wine simmers gently, steam rising in curling ribbons, carrying aromas of orange, clove, nutmeg, and honey that envelop the room, while children taste small sips under the watchful eyes of elders, their expressions brightening with the warmth, sweetness, and spice. The ritual of tasting becoming a rite of passage, a subtle initiation into the pleasures, stories, and traditions of the tavern. And you see apprentices watching closely, learning the gestures, the timing, and the rituals that turn simple ingredients into shared delight. The atmosphere is alive with sensory detail, the soft hiss of frothy ale, the gentle thump of mugs set on wooden tables, the faint pop of bubbling cider, the murmured conversations, the laughter of children, the quiet instruction of apprentices, and the warmth of hearth fires mingling with the sunlight streaming through the timbered windows, casting golden highlights across mugs, jugs, trays, and faces alike, creating a tableau of medieval life in its richest, most indulgent form. Patrons lean in, sharing gossip, jokes, and tales of adventures, occasionally raising a mug in toast, their expressions softened by warmth, camaraderie, and the gentle hum of shared ritual, while apprentices move carefully, tasting, pouring, and observing, absorbing lessons of flavor, patience, and social choreography that will inform their craft for years to come. Outside, the street hums faintly with life, the clatter of carts, distant voices, the scent of roasted meats, pastries, and spiced beverages drifting in through open doors, blending with the interior smells to form a complex, immersive tapestry of aroma, color, and sound that slows time and captures the essence of the medieval tavern as both sanctuary and stage, a place where life's hardships are temporarily suspended in favor of warmth, sweetness, and communal experience. As you take a deep breath, the mingling scents of honey, spice, malt, roasted nuts, and smoke fill your senses completely. The warmth of the tavern embracing you as patrons sip, laugh, and share. And you realize that these tavern tales, tipsy traditions, and secret rituals are more than entertainment. They are living history, a testament to human ingenuity, indulgence, and the enduring desire to create joy, connection, and memory from the simplest, most ephemeral ingredients, leaving a lingering warmth in the body, mind, and heart long after the last sip is taken, and a story that will echo through centuries in every taste, aroma, and gesture preserved in the living ritual of drink, community, and shared delight. The air is richer now, filled with the scent of roasting meats, spiced breads, and honeyed pastries as you move toward the center of the town where preparations for a festival are underway. A gathering of merchants, villagers, and wandering travelers, all drawn by the promise of indulgence and merriment. And the scene is alive with the rhythm of human delight. From the clatter of wooden carts bringing in barrels of ale to the faint tinkle of bells as children run barefoot across sun-warmed cobblestones, their laughter mingling with the sizzling of frying dough and the rich, warm aroma of roasted nuts and caramelized fruits. In the open square, long wooden tables are being set with rough-hewn plates and bowls, each already carrying small, fragrant morsels. Honey cakes dusted with powdered sugar, figs stuffed with nuts, flatbreads smeared with spiced preserves, and skewers of candied citrus that gleam like jewels in the morning sun. The colors vivid against the muted browns and grays of timber and stone. And you notice the careful way each item has been arranged, almost ceremoniously, by women and apprentices who move with the rhythm of the day, brushing honey over pastries, sprinkling crushed almonds and raisins, adjusting skewers so that every morsel catches the light. The air heavy with scents, so intoxicating that you can almost taste them before your lips meet the food. The festival itself hums with anticipation, merchants calling out their wares, minstrels tuning lutes and flutes, the smell of roasting meats and frying pastries rising in gentle clouds, and children running between stalls, pockets already filled with small sweets they have bargained for or stolen in gleeful triumph, while adults watch with indulgent smiles, tasting a piece of spiced bread here, a candied fig there. The simple pleasure of sugar and honey connecting them across generations and social boundaries, reminding everyone that in times of celebration, even the poorest can share in sweetness, warmth, and community. You notice a group of bakers near a large, open hearth, kneading dough for festival buns, rolling it with practiced hands, each movement a quiet ritual, the flour dusting the air and catching the sunlight in tiny golden clouds, while the smell of baked bread mingles with the caramelized sugar from trays of small fritters. And the combination is hypnotic, a symphony of aromas that seems to slow time, inviting everyone present to pause, inhale, and appreciate the abundance, however fleeting, that the festival provides. Somewhere behind the tables, a woman pours thick ribbons of honey over pastries stuffed with figs, dates, and almonds, letting it drip slowly onto the boards below, the golden liquid catching the light and glinting like molten sunlight, while an apprentice carefully stirs a cauldron of spiced wine, its aroma rich with cinnamon, cloves, and faint hints of orange, sending warmth and sweetness curling into the air, enveloping those nearby in a soft, comforting embrace. And you notice that even the smallest details, the sprinkle of sugar, the tilt of a tray, the precise alignment of skewers, carry a purpose, a quiet artistry designed to elevate ordinary ingredients into moments of delight, memory, and indulgence. Across the square, musicians play, their tunes imperfect yet enchanting, providing a soundtrack to the smells, colors, and textures. And as people move between stalls, tasting pastries, candied fruits, roasted nuts, and spiced breads, the festival transforms from a simple gathering into a living, breathing tapestry of medieval life, where survival and joy coexist, where necessity is briefly suspended in favor of celebration, and where sweetness, both literal and metaphorical, reigns for the few hours it is allowed. Children dart between tables, their sticky fingers glistening with honey, their eyes wide as they trade small treats, sometimes hiding pieces behind their backs to savor later, while adults exchange bites and stories, laughter mingling with the clatter of dishes, the hiss of frying pans, and the low hum of conversation, creating a sensory experience that touches everyone present. A communal indulgence in the simplest, most human of pleasures. You notice a baker adding the final touch to a tray of honeyed fritters, carefully sprinkling crushed almonds and a faint dusting of powdered sugar, the aroma curling upward, mingling with the tang of roasting nuts, the sweetness of honey, and the faint smoke from open flames, forming a perfect, ephemeral perfume that seems to hang over the entire square, softening shadows, warming hearts, and slowing time just enough for everyone to savor these fleeting moments of joy. In quiet corners, small vendors sell candied fruits on sticks, their colors brilliant and their sweetness almost overwhelming, while nearby, a group of villagers dips bread into pots of warm honey, savoring each bite as if it were the most precious luxury, the simple act of tasting sweetness becoming a ritual, a shared memory, a tiny rebellion against the hardships of life. And you realize that these feasts, these festival indulgences, are more than just sustenance. They are storytelling, memory, art, and love baked into tangible, edible form, carrying with them the history of trade, travel, and human creativity. As each ingredient, honey from distant hills, sugar from faraway lands, spices carried by merchants across oceans, tells a story of connection, survival, and delight, binding everyone present into a single, living moment of sensory indulgence, warmth, and shared humanity. As the long-awaited hour arrives, the castle's great hall transforms into a living theater of medieval life. The polished wooden tables, stretched end to end and adorned with platters of roasted meats, glistening pies, fresh breads, colorful fruits, and intricately spiced dishes, while goblets and cups of wine, mead, and cider glint in the soft, filtered sunlight streaming through tall, narrow windows, catching on the polished surfaces and casting fleeting reflections across the stone floors. And the air is rich with aroma, a complex tapestry of roasting meats, simmering stews, sweet pastries, fermented drinks, and fragrant herbs that envelops every guest and servant alike, drawing every sense into the spectacle of preparation, indulgence, and social ritual. The arrival of the nobles, adorned in fine fabrics, velvet, and embroidered silks, brings a subtle hush, followed by murmurs of greeting and admiration as they are seated according to rank, while servers move silently among the tables, offering small portions to taste and replenishing goblets with the carefully prepared wine and mead. The head cooks and stewards observing from the sidelines to ensure that timing, presentation, and quality remain perfect. For in a medieval banquet, every gesture, placement, and sip carries significance, a reflection of hierarchy, celebration, and the art of hospitality. And any misstep could disrupt the delicate balance of ceremony and perception. The feast begins with small courses, simple yet layered, introducing roasted vegetables, breads infused with herbs, pottages thick with grains and legumes, and subtly spiced meats, each dish accompanied by sips of mead or wine that complement and elevate the flavors, while apprentices move between tables carrying trays of pastries, tarts, and candied fruits, their careful placement observed and approved by master cooks. The combination of colors, aromas, textures, and flavors, creating an immersive sensory experience that transcends mere eating and enters the realm of celebration and spectacle. Conversation flows in soft murmurs, punctuated by laughter and the occasional toast. Guests sampling dishes slowly, savoring every bite, comparing flavors, textures, and aromas. And as the courses progress, the complexity of flavors intensifies. Roasted pheasants glazed with honey, venison rich with spices, pies layered with fruits and nuts, and custards sweetened with rare sugar, arriving on the tables in meticulous order, accompanied by increasingly robust wines and spiced beverages, each sip warming the body and softening the spirit, weaving a subtle, shared narrative among all present. Musicians stationed at the far end of the hall provide a gentle soundtrack, the sound of lutes, flutes, and soft percussion blending harmoniously with the clatter of dishes, the murmur of conversation, and the occasional clinking of goblets raised in toast, creating a layered auditory landscape that complements the visual and olfactory splendor of the feast. While guests nod, smile, and exchange whispered anecdotes, the experience simultaneously communal and intimate, a shared indulgence in abundance, artistry, and ceremony. Servers continuously replenish the platters, ensuring that every guest has ample portions. The balance between sweet, savory, spiced, and fermented tastes maintained with precision, while apprentices and stewards move unobtrusively, observing the rhythms of the feast, learning the art of timing, presentation, and hospitality that turns the labor of the kitchens into the seamless magic of a successful banquet, where every bite, sip, and gesture reinforces the social order, the celebration, and the artistry of food preparation. The aroma of roasted meats, herbs, and pastries mingles with the warmth of the hearth, the soft glow of candles, and the subtle chill of stone walls, creating an immersive environment that envelops every participant. And as desserts and sweetmeats are brought to the table's honeyed tarts, spiced cakes, candied fruits, and delicate pastries, the sense of culmination and delight peaks, a sensory crescendo that unites sight, smell, taste, and touch in a shared moment of indulgence and memory, leaving every guest not only nourished but enchanted by the artistry, patience, and creativity that have transformed humble ingredients into an unforgettable experience. Throughout the feast, subtle gestures, careful placement of a garnish, the perfect pour of wine, the gentle encouragement of a child to taste a sweet lustrate, the seamless interplay between skill, ritual, and human connection, the feast itself becoming a living testament to the ingenuity, dedication, and artistry of the cooks, apprentices, and servers whose labor underpins every moment of delight. And as the final plates are cleared, goblets drained, and conversations wind down, the hall retains the lingering warmth, the sense of honey, spice, and roasting meats, and the quiet sense of accomplishment and memory, a powerful reminder that behind every grand banquet lies a hidden world of preparation, patience, and craft, where human creativity transforms survival into celebration, sustenance into art, and fleeting moments into lasting stories of taste, connection, and shared indulgence. Beyond the grandeur of castles, hidden kitchens, and bustling taverns, the medieval streets pulse with a life all their own, where merchants, artisans, travelers, and townsfolk converge in a chaotic, sensory-rich world of street food, an unregulated theater of survival, ingenuity, and indulgence. And as you step onto the uneven cobblestones, the smell of roasting meats, frying pastries, fresh-baked breads, spiced cheeses, pickled vegetables, and simmering pottages overwhelms the senses in a way that is both exhilarating and disorienting, a living testament to the resourcefulness and creativity of urban medieval life, drawing your attention to wooden carts, simple stalls, and open fires lining every alley, each claiming attention with the cries of vendors hawking their wares, promises of flavor, sustenance, and occasional delight, each voice competing to cut through the ambient hum of horses, carts, and the constant shuffle of hurried townsfolk, creating a tapestry of sound, movement, and human energy that is almost intoxicating. Skewers of pork, beef, and poultry sizzle over open flames, the fat dripping onto smoldering coals with a hiss, sending smoke curling skyward, mingling with the scents of frying dough, honey-glazed pastries, roasted chestnuts, and spiced fruit, while apprentices, young vendors, and errant boys move with astonishing dexterity, turning skewers, ladling thick stews into small wooden bowls, arranging breads and pies for eager customers, and sliding mugs of diluted wine, ale, or cider across tables. The choreography of their movements, born out of necessity, speed, and the constant need to satisfy both patrons and the unforgiving rhythms of medieval urban life. As you weave through the crowd, you notice children darting between stalls, hands sticky with honey or syrup, tasting fried pastries or chunks of roasted meat, their laughter ringing above the clatter of coins and dishes, while adults sample salted fish, smoked meats, fresh cheeses, spiced nuts, and small loaves of bread, negotiating prices with sharp tongues and swift calculations. The art of bargaining as important as the taste of the food itself, a daily dance between need, appetite, and survival, where a single purchase could mark the difference between a satisfying meal and a gnawing hunger that will last until the next market day. Beside carts stacked with barrels of fermented fruit juices, ciders, and homemade wines, the aromas of apples, plums, and berries mingle with earthy, tangy, and sweet notes, forming a layered olfactory landscape that saturates the narrow streets, merging with smoke from open fires, roasting meats, and simmering stews, creating an almost tangible fog of smell that both disorients and invites, enveloping passersby and encouraging them to pause, taste, and participate in the communal ritual of street food. Small tables offer pickled vegetables, salted meats, spiced cheeses, dried fruits, and nuts, while vendors deftly arrange bowls and trays to catch the eye. The colors, vivid against the muted timber and stone facades of surrounding buildings, and as you observe, the meticulous care in their display reveals that even in the haphazard chaos of the street, artistry, pride, and human ingenuity remain. Each platter, bowl, and tray, a microcosm of culinary and cultural knowledge passed through generations. The interaction between sellers and buyers is a dance as old as the streets themselves, a combination of persuasion, humor, haggling, and storytelling, where the flavor of food is inseparable from the flavor of human connection, gossip, and experience, and every transaction from the exchange of a single loaf to the sale of a roasted bird, carries within it the dynamics of social life, survival, and community cohesion, revealing a hidden world where sustenance and delight intertwine. As the day progresses, the smells intensify, the roasting meats mingling with the sweet scent of honeyed pastries, the fermentation of ciders, the subtle smokiness of wood fires, and the earthy temps of fresh herbs and baked breads, while sunlight shifts across the cobblestones, illuminating the vibrant colors of fruit, baked goods, and vegetables, highlighting the intricate textures of roasted crusts, golden pastries, and glistening meats, forming a visual feast to match the olfactory and gustatory one, an immersive, multi-sensory experience that engages every sense and slows perception, allowing the city's food, life, and energy to imprint itself fully upon memory. Wandering further, you see apprentices and young cooks observing, learning from seasoned street vendors, noting the timing of frying, the layering of spices, the balance of sweet and savory, the precise pouring of ale or cider, and the choreography necessary to serve dozens of customers quickly while maintaining quality, a subtle education in efficiency, taste, and human interaction that mirrors the hidden training that sustains all forms of medieval culinary life, from taverns to castles. As night approaches, the intensity of activity does not wane. Lanterns and torches cast flickering shadows on walls, carts, and faces, the mingling aromas of food becoming richer, heavier, and warmer in the cool evening air, and the clamor of voices, laughter, haggling, and the occasional street musician creates a layered soundscape, punctuating the sensory richness of taste, smell, sight, and motion, a living painting of medieval, urban sustenance, culture, and community. Every bite, sip, and aroma tells a story of survival, trade, ingenuity, culinary tradition, human creativity, and shared experience, while children and adults alike navigate the crowded streets, tasting, savoring, and sometimes spilling, learning the rhythms of the city and the culture encoded in its food, leaving an indelible impression of warmth, flavor, skill, and memory. A reminder that even outside grand halls and hidden kitchens, medieval life thrived in the narrow streets, markets, and alleys, where sustenance, indulgence, and ingenuity combined in a chaotic, aromatic, and endlessly fascinating world of street food. In the narrow alleys and open squares of medieval towns, where the cobblestones are worn smooth by centuries of foot traffic, the lives of street vendors unfold in quiet drama and tireless routine, a tapestry of human ingenuity, survival, and storytelling, hidden behind the aroma of roasting meats, frying pastries, and simmering stews. For each vendor carries not only food, but also history, personal ambition, and a connection to the community. And as you move closer, you see a butcher deftly carving pieces of pork and beef, the fat glistening as it catches the sunlight, while nearby, a baker slides golden loaves from a small oven, their crusts steaming and aromatic, dusted lightly with flour, and a pastry seller arranges honeyed cakes, tarts, and fried dough with meticulous care, their arrangement a visual lure as much as a culinary offering, each sweet or savory morsel telling a story of preparation, skill, and tradition passed down through generations. Apprentices, children, and helpers dart between stalls, carrying trays of pastries or mugs of ale, cider, or diluted wine. The choreography of their movements, born from necessity, observation, and survival, as every second spent fumbling or spilling could mean lost customers, lost coins, or a diminished reputation. And yet, in the chaos, there is rhythm, a delicate balance of speed, precision, and creativity that defines life on the medieval street, transforming ordinary days into a vibrant stage where taste, skill, and human interaction intersect. The scents are a layered symphony. Smoke from open fires entwines with the sweet perfume of honey, the earthy richness of roasted meats, the subtle tang of pickled vegetables, and the faint spice of exotic herbs drifting through the narrow streets to mingle with the daily sounds of the town. From the clatter of carts to the soft murmur of conversations, laughter, haggling, and the occasional cry of a street performer or musician, creating an immersive atmosphere where every sense is engaged and every observer is drawn into the rhythm of trade and community. Among the vendors, there is a subtle social order, a tacit understanding of space, territory, and timing, where the positioning of stalls, the arrangement of goods, and the cadence of calls to customers reflect a blend of experience, skill, and survival instinct. And as apprentices watch carefully, they learn not just the craft of cooking or baking, but also the art of negotiation, storytelling, and maintaining reputation, understanding that success relies as much on social intelligence as culinary expertise. Beside barrels of cider and homemade wine, an elderly vendor offers small tastings to attract passersby, the fermented aromas mingling with roasting meat and baking bread, creating a scent profile that is simultaneously inviting, intoxicating, and grounding, while children sample honeyed pastries, their faces lighting up with delight, and adults pause to taste spiced meats, pickled vegetables, or fresh cheeses, exchanging anecdotes, laughter, and gossip as part of the communal experience, each transaction reinforcing bonds, social knowledge, and the interdependence of the town's inhabitants. As the day wears on, the activity intensifies. More carts arrive with roasted birds, pies, root vegetables, and fried treats. Apprentices and helpers navigate narrow lanes with practiced agility, avoiding obstacles, negotiating crowds, and maintaining the quality of their offerings, while head vendors supervise, tasting sauces, adjusting seasoning, and teaching through subtle gestures, nods, and quiet instructions, imparting knowledge that combines culinary mastery with the wisdom of observation, patience, and timing, ensuring that the flow of commerce, flavor, and human interaction remains seamless. The street itself becomes a living theater of sensory and social complexity, where every smell, sound, movement, and taste conveys information, delight, and cultural memory, a transient but powerful snapshot of medieval life. And as evening approaches, lanterns and torches are lit, casting flickering light on cobblestones, stalls, and faces, enhancing the colors, textures, and contrasts of foods and wares, deepening shadows and highlights, drawing attention to the glistening skins of roasted meats, the golden surfaces of fried pastries, the rich hues of fruits, and the subtle layering of herbs, spices, and sauces that elevate simple ingredients into moments of pleasure and sustenance. The vendor's stories emerge in subtle ways. The elderly baker recalling past famines, the young apprentice learning the rhythm of a busy street, the meat seller sharing gossip with travelers, the pastry maker noting which flavors delight children, each anecdote, gesture, and ritual entwined with the preparation and sale of food, revealing that behind the chaos and sensory richness lies a hidden network of human experience, culture, and continuity, where every morsel, sip, and scent carries history, memory, and the artistry of daily life. And the street itself becomes both stage and classroom, a place where skill, community, survival, and celebration converge, leaving a lasting impression of warmth, flavor, ingenuity, and the enduring human capacity to transform ordinary ingredients into shared delight, sustenance, and culture, a vibrant testament to the hidden stories that live in the smells, tastes, and gestures of medieval street food. As the sun climbs high above the town, casting golden light across cobblestones, timbered buildings, the medieval streets transform into vibrant stages for festivals, fairs, and spontaneous feasting, where the scent of roasting meats, spiced breads, fried pastries, fresh cheeses, and fermented drinks mingles with the laughter, shouts, and music of townsfolk, travelers, and performers, creating an immersive tapestry of sensory delight that is both intoxicating and enlightening, revealing the ways in which food, celebration, and community intertwine in daily life. Wooden carts and stalls are rearranged for the occasion, decorated with colorful fabrics, banners, and garlands, each vendor striving to attract attention with vivid displays of roasted birds glistening with honey glaze, pies layered with fruits and nuts, breads dusted with flour, and pastries filled with spiced meats or sweetened with honey and dried fruits, while apprentices and young helpers move rapidly among the crowds, delivering drinks, sampling dishes, and observing the subtle choreography of service, timing, and human interaction that ensures the festival runs smoothly. The air thick with a mix of aroma smoke from roasting fires, sweetness from baked goods, tempts from pickled vegetables, and the earthy perfume of herbs blending into an overwhelming yet exhilarating sensory experience. Musicians with lutes, flutes, and drums navigate the narrow streets, their melodies weaving between vendors, performers, and audiences, punctuating the hum of conversation, clatter of coins, and occasional laughter of children, while dancers in colorful costumes twirl on small makeshift stages, feet pounding rhythms into the cobblestones, their movements reflecting the energy, creativity, and joy of communal celebration. And the townspeople respond with claps, cheers, and shared smiles, their attention moving seamlessly from food to performance and back again, illustrating the interconnectedness of sustenance, culture, and entertainment. In one corner, an elderly baker arranges a display of honey cakes, fruit tarts, and spiced pastries, their careful placement forming patterns that catch the sunlight, while nearby, a meat vendor carves roasted fowl and offers small samples of sausage, the aroma mingling with smoke and the earthy scent of fresh bread, drawing the attention of hungry passersby who pause to taste, savor, and share stories, creating a network of ephemeral human connection rooted in the pleasures of food and communal celebration. Children dart between stalls, hands sticky with honey or fried dough, their laughter rising above the general hum of activity, while adults barter with vendors, negotiating prices, trading coins for small morsels, and exchanging news or gossip, demonstrating that medieval street festivals are as much about social interaction and cultural exchange as they are about sustenance and indulgence, and that every purchase, bite, and gesture carries layers of meaning, tradition, and memory. Apprentices and young helpers observe carefully, learning not only the craft of cooking, baking, and serving, but also the rhythms, timing, and subtle social cues that transform ordinary labor into seamless spectacle. Understanding that success relies on a combination of skill, observation, and intuition, as each festival provides both an immediate test of culinary prowess and a long-term lesson in human interaction, timing, and adaptability. As the day progresses, the smells, sounds, and sights intensify, creating a kaleidoscope of sensory impressions. Roasted meats glistening, pies steaming, pastries golden and sweet, fresh cheeses and pickled vegetables arranged for visual impact, children squealing with delight at a freshly baked treat, musicians drawing crowds with intricate melodies, dancers performing energetic routines, townsfolk cheering, merchants negotiating, and apprentices rushing between stations to deliver food and drinks, all blending into a chaotic, harmonious, and immersive scene of life, labor, and celebration. By evening, lanterns, torches, and fires cast warm, flickering light over the cobblestones, illuminating the glistening surfaces of food, the vivid fabrics of banners and costumes, the faces of delighted children and weary but satisfied adults, and the subtle sweat and focus of vendors and apprentices alike, creating a living painting that captures the energy, complexity, and artistry of medieval street festivals, where food is simultaneously necessity, art, indulgence, and social glue, binding the community together in shared experience, delight, and memory. And as the festival winds down, the lingering sense of roasted meats, sweet pastries, fresh breads, spiced beverages, and fermented drinks remain in the air, imbuing the streets, alleys, and remaining stalls with a sense of warmth, accomplishment, and communal pride, a testament to the creativity, resilience, and enduring human desire to transform ordinary ingredients, simple spaces, and fleeting moments into celebration, memory, and cultural continuity, leaving every participant with a lasting impression of flavor, aroma, color, and connection that transcends the ephemeral nature of the event, preserving the story of medieval street life, food, and festival culture for generations to come.